have a big life to ever. So brand. Oh, man. And we are back at it again.
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Foolish young pastor.
Good to see you, man.
You too.
What's up, y'all? My name is Brandon Leake.
What's up, y'all? We're making an album and stuff. I don't know how this is working, but we're making an album and stuff.
And this is where it all begins. So, in creating Deficiencies, A Tale from My Dark Side, this process started about a year ago to a year and a half ago, in all honesty. What I wanted to do was to create this project entitled 0-25, which was supposed to be a narration of my life, essentially in sequential order, from birth till, at the time I was 25 years old, to give a complete description of what my life has been like, what my life like is in the current moment, all the different ebbs and flows, the whole nine. And man, when I tell you that I had absolutely no creative motivation or juice that flowed in the midst of trying to create that project, it was entirely frustrating. But I look on it now and realize that God was doing something in me and with me during that time in which I needed to be prepared to learn and grow. The season of creative drought wasn't meant to highlight the fact that I shouldn't do poetry anymore, which is something that ran across my mind a couple of times. However, it was in fact a time for me to reflect, to learn, to grow, and to recognize what God was trying to teach me during that season. And it was the fact that the things that I consider to be deficiencies are exactly what God will use to bring honor and glory to His name.
No, not groceries. This is actually, so I write poems visually. So I come up with a concept that I like to make the video with, and then I try to write to that idea. So the concept is I'm gonna be sitting down in this coffee shop, and there's gonna be your music playing. And then it's going to then dole out as the camera zooms in on me. And it's gonna be me inside of my own mind. And this is a letter I wrote to my father.
Now, in terms of creating the actual album itself, that part was fun. The writing of it was all done months before the actual recording of the album. For me, I didn't have any problem writing the pieces once me and God got good on what the vision for this album was going to be. However, it took me a painstaking amount of time to be able to get the proper concepts behind how it would sound instrumentally, because I felt like I left a lot on the table with the first project I did entitled In My Thoughts, and I didn't want to go that same route. I wanted to do something that I felt was truly genuine to not only the pieces themselves, but to the moment in time I was trying to represent, and to who I was, or I should say who I am now as an artist. So that was a very interesting process, getting all of that together for myself and trying to piece it all together well. And it worked out. I took a lot of inspiration from different musicians, different artists, both large scale artists and local folks. And like just to name a few, John Legends again. There are several instrumental tracks on YouTube from people who create ambient music. My friend Jonah Sonar, The Art of Peer Pressure by Kendrick Lamar, You by Kendrick Lamar, what's the name of it? Love Yours by J. Cole. Also really was inspired by Yeba and her song My Mind, but trying to find a way to be able to blend all of these various different sounds and put them together in a coherent fashion was the challenge, especially since I don't play any instruments and I don't read or write music. So what I had to do was I had to create. I took the advice of actually another major inspiration was my friend Michael Bornier. And I took a major piece of advice that he gave me, which was, if you have an emotion that you know you're trying to get across, write it down and get reference tracks, and then give it to artists who know what they're doing, and then allow for them to create something beautiful out of it. And that's exactly what I did. I gave a vibe, I gave a feeling, I gave a mood for what I was hoping for with the track. And my musician friends did not fail me at all in the midst of this. They did such a phenomenal job. Shout out to Matt Young, shout out to Taya, shout out to Jonah, shout out to Marcel, shout out to Dwayne. I appreciate all of y'all so much for doing every single thing that you did to help make sure that that day and those days that we were in the studio went well. And so once the pieces were done and once the reference tracks were found and the mood and idea of the track was made, it was just about execution. And to be honest, I sat on these poems and these concepts for months. Like, I'd say at least half a year, and I didn't know what God was doing with me. I was teaching full time at the time, didn't have a whole lot of vision as to how this whole thing would piece itself together. I knew that the album would come together, but I didn't know the timing of everything. And so, but once the summer hit, I was like, okay, this is gonna be my time. And I figured out how much my studio time was gonna be. And I realized I had 16 hours to get this album done, so I knew I had to be prepared. I knew I couldn't go in there lollygagging and just say, hey, let's spend 6 hours here, 6 hours there, 2 hours here, 2 hours there. No, I had to come in there focused and say, this is the idea, these are the concepts. We're bringing this thing to life as quickly as we possibly can. And we did. We really did.
Days, it's hard for me to try and let you go. Just figured I'd stop by and let you know I be running. I'm not sure what's worse.
No, it's better without it though.
Let's hear it without it. So just mute it, don't do it. Figured I'd stop by and let you know.
Creating each and every single one of these tracks was a journey in and of itself, from the writing to the mood development on the track to the actual execution once in studio was just absolutely a journey, because you have a vision, but you have to be malleable. You have to be able to allow it to grow and develop into what it's actually going to be, as opposed to just what you're desiring for it to be. And when I say each and every single track was a journey, I really do mean that, because I did when I give a poem, what I want to happen is I want for the audience to feel every single emotion that I was feeling in the midst of my time when I was going through whatever I'm writing about. And I try to take myself back to that very moment, so that way I can be as authentic with them as I possibly can, because I truly do believe if that's what I do, then I can't lose. then I can't fail. Because at the end of it all, that's what it's about. It's not just about the snaps or the applause. It's about creating an image, giving a picture so vivid that the people in the audience can see it, they can taste it, they can feel it. They're placed right where I was. They're the fatherless kid at home writing a letter to their father. They're the young boy or girl who's searching after acceptance on the playground. They're the person who is, dealing with perfectionism and contemplating what the next step to do is, whether it be self-harm, whether it be, medicating through drugs or whatever it is. I want to take people on a ride. I don't want to just entertain. So, man, creating this album, as I said, was most certainly a journey. Now, also in concert with this album, I made another short EP called The Classics, which has 5 of my poems that I've done over the past 5 years on a very recurring basis. And it was just something I was like, hey, I think that this would be good to be able to give people, because people really like these poems, and it would be really awesome for them to be able to have something that they can take home with them if they enjoyed those pieces, as opposed to just having to have them on YouTube. So figured out a way to do that, and that was cool. But that wasn't the purpose of why I was showing up in the studio. That wasn't the purpose of this album. That's not even the purpose of why I'm doing this video right now. I had to very much redefine what success, what failure, and what purpose looked like for me in this next season of life. Now current season of life. And I had to say that success was me stepping on stage and performing for an audience of one every single time I'm on stage. The time on stage is not about trying to impress an audience. Instead, the time on stage is about leaving an impact with them and giving God glory through the words that I speak. Failure is me adhering to whatever the audience is desiring from me in that moment, instead of feeding their souls. Because in our culture, we very much are a fast food culture that likes to digest things as quickly as possible, even if they're not what's in our best interest. The mission of this entire thing, from the album to the book to the EP to the tour to the videos, I had to really reassess and be like, am I just looking for clout? Am I looking for attention? Am I looking to make more dollars? Am I looking to do all the things that, were on my bucket list when I first started doing poetry? Am I just trying to be another button poetry person? No. And there's nothing wrong with pursuing getting on button poetry. There's nothing wrong with competing in slams. There's nothing wrong with going up there and delivering a message that is good for the people that they want to hear, because getting what we want is also good at times. But that is not the mission that I have. The mission I have is to help people realize that they were created on purpose and with purpose, so they should live on and with purpose. And that's why the entire thing that I do is entitled Called to Move, because I believe everyone has a calling that they should be moving towards. So yeah, Deficiency is a tale from my dark side. The creation of this whole thing from top to bottom was a restructuring of my entire life, and coming to terms with the fact that some things needed to be different in order for me to grow. And I'm excited for it. I'm genuinely excited to see all that will come with this next season of life.